Hi, it's John from the bendingbarbell.co.uk. So I saw on Facebook a few days ago a friend and fellow lifter, Ryan, who said that he experiences quite a lot of pain when he's squatting. So I suggested it could be his mobility. We wasn't really sure whether it was mobility, flexibility or just an injury. So I suggested he get someone to film him doing the overhead squat from behind and in front and also from the side, and we take a look at it for him. So as I bang on to a lot of my clients and lifters, mobility is massively important. It's the foundation of most strength programs. If you can't manipulate your joints through the correct range of motion and push weights through that range, you're not going to be strong. You're going to create imbalance, you're going to overcompensate, you're going to create injuries, and ultimately you're not using all of your muscles in the appropriate way. So this is the video that he sent over. So before we even start the squat, what have we noticed? If you're looking at it, hopefully you can see the angle of his feet. So he's got his left foot in front of his right, which would, before we even start the lift, normally suggest that there's something going on with his left hip. So in most cases, if the left foot's further forward, it means that he's got too much internal rotation, not enough external rotation, and by pushing his foot forward, that's what's then allowing him to get to depth, so he's overcompensating. What we can also see is the angle of his feet. So his left foot is angled out quite highly, his right foot not so much. Again, that's another clue that suggests there's something going on with that left hip. The other thing we notice is his lifting shoes. So they're not running trainers, which are obviously the worst thing you could possibly wear, but they're not particularly supportive, which is going to also put into question his ankle mobility. So if we watch the lift, down and up. So what do we notice? So as he starts to descend to the squat, so the bar position carries on with his feet position. So he's not balanced, he's not stabilised, and he's not pushing effectively. The other thing we notice, which is perhaps more worrying, is looking at his angles of his legs. So if we draw lines up from his heels, hopefully you can see that the left leg is not externally rotating far enough. So he's actually, if we watch it back, he's actually descending all of his weight into just one side. So he's going down, pushing all of his weight through his left because he can't externally rotate it far enough to squat evenly on both. So what that gives us is it gives us ankle collapse, which is then probably going to give him some form of knee pain, which is then basically causing him to overcompensate on the right side to stabilise himself. Another way of demonstrating this is if we draw a box up from his heels, if we look at his body, so his left side's fairly straight, his right is bent round, pushing all his weight through his left, which is going to give him those right hip issues. So normally the cause of the pain isn't actually where the issue is. It's normally it can be traced back to the other side of the body because it's normally pain from overcompensation. So as we watch the actual start of the squat, so he comes down, as we've said, he's coming down all his weight through his left leg, and then as he presses up, pushing all of his weight through his right, and he's not really squeezing his glutes fast enough, but that's just a technique issue. But as he's coming up, all the weight through his right, which you can almost bet all of your money that that's where the issue is. So that's what's causing the pain. So his left side isn't externally rotating, his left ankle's collapsing in, which is then giving him a lot of pain on his right because he's having to overcompensate. So what do we do? Essentially what we'll be prescribing for Ryan is we'll be looking at increasing that external hip rotation. So at the minute, as we've said before, there's one, there's the other. What we'll be trying to do is working on that hip joint to try and bring it out in line with the other joint, with the opposite hip. So that's then going to help us in terms of squatting evenly, squatting equally, and ultimately you can now start squatting on two legs instead of the one that he's been squatting on for the last year. And then the other thing we'll be working on will be stability of the hip. So it's fine to have the mobility, but we now need the stability. But that's just a case of technique reinforcement and working that as he's dropping down into the squat, he's actually pushing his knees out, which will give us better stability. So hopefully that's just a quick insight into some of the screens that I do for the bending barbell around mobility, and also give you an idea as to how important mobility is into any kind of strength lift or movement.